Torah on Parshas Va'eda, page Nun Vav, bottom of the first column. Okay, the pasuk begins, V'yidaber Elokim es kol Elav v'yimer Elav ani Hashem Va'eda el Avram. Pasuk says, Hashem's telling Moshe Rabbeinu, I am Hashem, I appear to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So he says, in the Parshas on Nemra Tshuva, this Parsha is an answer to what Moshe Rabbeinu said before. At the end of Parsha Shmei, V'yosef Moshe v'yimer Lama Ari Yosef. Moshe Rabbeinu said, why are you making it worse for these people? From the time you sent me to Egypt, all it did, it became worse. And Hashem answered him, I appeared to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Okay? So the Alter Rebbe says, bottom line is like this, the way the Medrash says it, not Pshat, but the Medrash, Rashi brings down the Medrash. Moshe Rabbeinu complained to Hashem, you made it worse. So what did Hashem tell him? Hey, I missed the others, they never complained. But that didn't answer the question. The question was, Lama that. Why are you making it worse? So he says, I missed the others, they never complained. He says, what type of answer is this to the question? Why did you make it bad? To understand what caused this level of galus. What sin did they do that caused this galus of the complication in Egypt? It was already decreed in Bris Ben Absarim, but why so severe? In other words, at Bris Ben Absarim, Hashem told Avram Avinu, there's going to be galus. But why did it have to, what did they do so bad already that made such a severe galus? By the way, generally speaking, according to the Medrash, the last 86 years of Mitzrayim, they were there 210 years. The main galus, the slavery hard work, was the last 86 years, or 90 years. That's why Miriam was called Miriam. Moshe Rabbeinu was 80 years old at this time. Miriam was 85. Why is she called Miriam? Because then started the mar, bitterness. The difficulty of the galus began actually when Miriam was born. So he says, it says in the pasuk like this, by Brias Ha'elam it says, it says on the day, Hashem Elokim, both names, made Eretz Hashemayim. Shalabriya Shemayim Va'aretz, sheet of Shem Havaya v'Shem Elokim. Hashem combined the name of Havaya with the name of Elokim. Meaning, the whole creation, it says, Bereshit bar Elokim, Yom Elokim, Yom Elokim. All the way at the end, so to speak, at the end of creation, it says, B'yem Aseis Hashem Elokim Eretz Hashemayim. So Chassidus brings a famous marshal that the Medrash says, B'tchila olah b'machshavti liveras ha'elim b'midas hadin. Rosh ha'ena elim iskayim, shitavim b'midas harachmin. So the Medrash says like this. Initially Hashem wanted to create the world midas hadin, Elokim. Elokim is midas hadin. You sin, you're out. Bottom line, no rachmanis. Hashem saw the world can't exist. This is the simple meaning of the Medrash. Hashem saw the world and nobody's going to live more than a day. So sheet of Imer midas harachmin, he added to it midas harachmin, which is Hashem kol rachum v'chanun. So at the end of creation, Hashem realized, you have to understand, it's not that Hashem thought one way, made a mistake, so he said, okay, let's fix it. Hashem does it right the first time. So what does that mean? What's the explanation? The creation with both names, Havaya and Elokim, he says, Elokim Lashon Rabim. Elokim is the only name of Hashem that's plural. It's Elokim, plural. Elokim Kadeshim. Havaya, yet Havaya is Echad. Havaya is singular, and Elokim is plural. What does that mean? It says in the pasuk, until in David HaMelech says, Hashem is very great and very exalted, and another pasuk says, look at the law, say ein cheker. There's no understanding of what, no comprehension whatsoever. There's no chakira in the greatness of Hashem. And then the Medrash says, God, when is Hashem great? When Hashem is in the ear of Elokeinu. David HaMelech says, God Hashem Hashem is very big and great in the ear of Elokeinu. So the Medrash says, a Masehu Gadol, when is Hashem great? Meaning, when do you see the greatness of Hashem? Kshehu be'er Elokeinu. That means when he comes into ear Elokeinu, which like we said many times, ear represents Dibur, because the city is composed of a lot of houses, which are composed of a lot of bricks, stones, and so on and so forth. So in other words, when do you see the greatness of Hashem? Dafka, when he creates world. Or as other places in Chassidus it says, not a Masehu Gadol, but Amiti Hu Gadol. When is the essence of Hashem, the Amiti Hu Gadol? Dafka in Gashmius, because Yashmiyayin comes from the essence of Hashem, not revelations. Because the greatness of Hashem there's no end to. And no man could possibly grasp Hashem. Therefore, you can't say the word big on something that's infinite. When you say big, that's a description. It's big compared to something else. The word big, by definition, means is a limited size to it, and is big compared to something which is small. Okay? But in the essence of Hashem, you can't say the word Gadol, because there's no measurements there to say he's big. Big itself is a limitation. It's big and not small. Mebchinas Malchus sees Baruch when it's a manifestation of the Ziv and Arif in the level of Malchus. K'diksiv Malchus Chamalchus Kol Elamim. V'yispashtes v'amshachazu, and this manifestation of godliness is ein al Ziv Arif Ba'alma, is only an array, and an array which is limited. Over there you could say a big ray and a small ray, a great array and a less great ray. V'nikra earning to Baruch. Ziv Hashchina, what is this concept of Ziv Hashchina? Like the sun, light that comes from the sun. Now what is the sun? The sun, Shemesh Umogein Havaya Lekim. Shemesh, meaning Shekmei Sheraz Hashem Ispashim Hashem Eslahoyer Aloretz. Just like the ray of the sun that shines on the earth is only a ray of the sun. If the sun itself would be here, we'd burn up. It's only a ray of the sun. And therefore this ray has no comparison whatsoever to the essence of the sun. It's not at all in that level of godliness, even though it comes from the sun. But there's no comparison between the ray of the sun and the sun. It's very simple. The sun's ray we could tolerate. The sun itself we can't tolerate. So there's no connection whatsoever. Yeah, it reveals what type of light the sun gives. But it's not the sun. So the same thing. Therefore, the same thing, this revelation of Hashem, that gives life to the higher worlds and the lower world. Mereish Kol Darga, from the head of top of all levels to the end of all levels. Ein Za'ala B'china Ziv. Shein Tev Simakam V'Kula Kamei Kol Echoshuv. So he's saying like this. Ein Masehu Gadol Kshehu Be'ir Elokeinu. There's no Ir Havaya. When do you see a Masehu Gadol, in other words, the ray of Hashem that creates the world, because Gadol can only be in a limited way. Gadol Hashem U'Molam, and where do you see the greatness of Hashem? Shu Be'ir Elokeinu, which is only the ray. It's only the ray of the Shechina. Like it says, Ki Shemesh U'Mogein Havaya Elokim. Havaya is like the sun that shines. but without the mogen, without the whatever you want to call ozone layer or the covering of the sun, whatever it may be, that allows the sun's rays to function properly on earth without burning it up, that's the level of Elokim. So Elokim is only a ray of Havaya. And there's no comparison between the ray and the Shemesh. There's no comparison between Elokim and Havaya. And therefore, diversity, which is Lashon Rabim, pluralism, not Havaya Echad, is only in the level of Elokim. When there's a concealment and symptom, then you can have many different types of rays. Then you can have Atzilus, Bri, Yitzir, and Asi. You can have inert, plant, animal, human, and infinite levels all in between each one of them. In other words, what makes this a table and this a chair is a different ray of Hashem in the table versus the chair. This is existing from the letters Shin Lamed Ches Nun. This is existing from the Lashon Kodesh words Chav Samach Aleph. This is from the word Reish Tzadik Pei Hei Ritzpah. And every name is a different revelation of Hashem. But that's in the level of Elokim.
When a carpenter takes a piece of wood and he makes it into a shulchan, what happens?
Huh?
When a carpenter takes a couple of pieces of wood and makes it into a shulchan,
one of the chayas of Elokus changes. It changes from eitz to shulchan. But obviously, but a shulchan doesn't have to be, it could be a metal table.
So the rays change?
Mm-hmm. The chomer, the material didn't change.
Right.
The form changed. The form is the ray and the tzura. That changes.
The carpenter has the power to change the rays of Hakadosh Baruch Hu.
I understand. We have the ability to take Gashmis and make it Ruchnius. That's not a bigger Pella. You tell me a carpenter change it. We take Gashmis and make it Ruchnius. We take finite, make it into infinite. It's much greater than a carpenter changing it, just the shape of something. Okay. Okay. So he neksiv marabo masach and neksiv magodlu masacha. We say in davening magodlu masach Hashem marabo masach Hashem. Right? What does it mean? What's the difference between rabo masach Hashem and magodlu masach Hashem? Obviously, it's different because it's a different word. Marabo masach koyal el misatachtoinim. Merabu Masecha is Gashmis Asiyah. That's a level of Elam Misatachteinu. V'chol Abruyim Sheba'elam Azeh. And all the creations of this world. Amischalkum Leminei Mekana Minei Ischalkus. Ribi Revavis Madregas. Infinite tens of thousands of levels. In Daimet Tzmeach HaMedaber. Shebekama Minei Daimim. There's many Daimims, there's many Tzmeach, there's many Chais. And every species, I don't mean species of an animal, every daimim, this stone is different than this stone, and this water is different than this water. And even, let's see, in plant life, yeah? Tapuchim, agayzim, shkedim, it's all plant life, but there's apples, and there's nuts, and there's shkedim, also nuts, there's walnut, almonds, whatever, the different types. And not only Chassidus explained, every almond, every walnut is different than the other walnut. It has its own unique Dvar Hashem in it, keeping in existence. In other words, all walnuts, I'm using the word walnut, all walnuts have a similar Dvar Hashem in it that makes it a walnut. But each walnut has a different name of Hashem. That's what makes this walnut, and this walnut. Every drop of water has its different Dvar Hashem in it. Every kernel of sand, every piece of earth, every leaf has its own unique Dvar Hashem in it. And he says the same thing with grass. No two grasses taste alike. Why? In fact, the Gemara says like this. There's a fish. The Gemara says the fish that's caught in the waters of Spain is different than the water you catch in a different country. It's the same water, seemingly, and the same fish, but there's still a different taste. Every city has its own taste of the water that creates different tastes than in other places.
As a matter of fact, some people who go to Mexico and drink their water, they get sick.
Any water of a different country you go to, you get sick. You have to be careful.
Yes.
Not only Mexico. Okay. What's the reason for this? That's the mazel that sustains it. That doesn't have a mazel that hits it and says grow. And this is all pselis el mesoyenim. This is only all this gashmistic, like he says, morabu masech Hashem refers to elam atachtenim, which is the elam asiyah, which has infinite creations, and it all comes pselis elam mesoyenim. This comes from the junk of the elam mesoyenim. Why? We say, V'chol Karav is a pasuk in Tilma, we say it in Nishmas. V'chol Karav Hashem Kodshay. Yeah? Simply means, V'chol Karav means all my intestines, Kirbayim, right? The stomach will praise Hashem. But the Medrash says, there are Malachim up there, they're called Karavai. What is the function of the stomach? To separate the good and the bad. The bad goes out in waste, and the good is sustained in blood and flesh. There are malachim up there that take the good and keep it in the worlds upstairs of Kedusha. And then there's the pselis, the junk of up there, comes down here into Olam Hazeh. Into Teslas, into houses, into Lexuses, into whatever it is. That's the garbage coming from the pselis. And this pselis itself is infinite. That's what we say, that's how the Medrash says, V'chol Karavai Hashem Kodshay doesn't only mean the stomach, it means all the malachim that are called Karavai also praise Hashem Kodshay. What?
This line is not even the junk of malach, it's the junk of down here.
Yeah. The Nefesh Habamis comes from the junk of the Malachim. It's the Nefesh Habamis, which is not bad. Okay, so he says, Sheyesh B'chinas Kirbayim Al Yenim, there's stomach up there, meaning Malachim, they're called Kirbayim. Shemavadin Apselis Lashpila and Lazagashmi. Now, if you have Atzilis, those worlds up there, and then it comes into this world, so how come from over there it's Kedusha and over here it's garbage? Rubei Kukuleira, the vast majority of the world is evil. So he said, because that's coming from the pselis of Momaila. Ukamai Merazal, not the Smailo Bara Aretz. Hashem took his left hand Kaviyachal and created earth, not the Yemine Bara Shemayim. And he took his right hand and created Shemayim. Meaning, Aretz Mekabeles B'Pchinas Smail, left, like it says Aretz, and that's Morabu Masach Hashem. So he said, Morabu, how much is the quantity of world? Quantity is in this world. Elam Azagashmi. Then he's going to, for tomorrow, Magodlu Masach Hashem, that refers to Elam Asoyenim.